Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. You're doing the pledge.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Stein.
All right, here we go. Good
Come in.
evening and welcome to the annual reorganization meeting for the Lower Paxton Township Authority.
Turn your mic on.
Oh, that's a good idea. How about now? Good? All right. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Blaine.
Please rise. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Blaine. Next item on the agenda is election of chairman of the board. Do I have any nominations?
Yes, I would like to nominate David B. Blaine as the authority chairman.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to nominate? Hearing none?
I'll second David Blaine.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. You can pass the gavel down now.
Yeah, that's right. You'll need it.
All right, here we go. Next item of business will be the election of the vice chairman of the board. Is there any nominations?
I nominate Robin Lindsay.
Nomination by Paul. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Zumas? Any further discussion? Okay, any other further nominations? Hearing none. I think we can do this by voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Robin Lindsay, you are the vice chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's,
Secretary of the board. Is there any nominations for secretary of the board?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Chris Judd as our secretary.
There's a motion on the floor for Chris Judd as secretary from Mr. Zumas. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Navarro seconds. Any further nominations? Hearing no further nominations, nominations will be closed. I think we do this by voice vote. For Mr. Judd, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Mr. Judd, secretary of the board. How's it feel? Feel pretty good? Is it great? There you go. Awesome. There you go. Good for you. All right. Next item of business will be the appointment of the authority treasurer. Is there any nominations for authority treasurer?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Norman Zumas as treasurer.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Ramsey for Norm Zumas for treasurer. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second the nomination for Norm Zumas as treasurer.
Second by Mr. McCormick. Is there any further discussion? Any further nominations? Hearing no further nominations, nominations will be closed. We will make a motion then for Mr. Zumas for treasurer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right, assistant secretary. Any nominations for assistant secretary of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate David Ramsey for Assistant Secretary.
Motion by Mr. Judd. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mrs. Lindsay. Any further discussion? Any further nominations? Hearing no further nominations, nominations can be closed. All those in favor of Mr. Ramsey for assistant secretary signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right. Next item of business will be the appointment of the authority solicitor.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Stein Law Offices.
There's a motion on the floor for Stein Law Offices from Paul. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Zumas, any further discussion? All those in favor of Stein Law Offices as the authority solicitor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right, appointment of the authority stormwater sewer engineer.
Mr. Chairman, it's my pleasure to nominate the HRG as the authority engineer for stormwater.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. Is there a second to HRG as the stormwater engineer?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ramsey. Is there any further nominations, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of HRG as the stormwater engineer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Now, next one is the appointment of the authority's sanitary sewer engineer. Everybody fighting over these sewer authorities. So there we go. Is there a motion for an engineering firm for sanitary sewer?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate GHD for that position.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Judd. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zumas. Any further discussion? Hearing none. I think we do this by voice vote as well. All those in favor of GHD as a sanitary sewer engineer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right. Establishment of the regular meeting schedule for the board meetings. We will continue to stick with the current schedule, which is quarterly on the fourth Tuesday of the months of February, May, August, and November. Any discussions on changing that by any of the board members? Do we need a motion to approve that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that quarterly meetings are the fourth Tuesday of February, May, August, and November.
Motion by Ms. Lindsay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zumas. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right. I guess we can adjourn the reorganization meeting and go to the established business meeting at this point in time. So with that being said, we'll start with the first item of business being public comment. I think that we have one individual that likes to have public comment at this point. Is that correct? Mr. Sanko, correct? Yeah, if you can come up to right there to the podium right behind you there, and give your name and address.
Hi, my name is Nathaniel Sanko. I live at 6208 Jerome Boulevard in Linglestown. I am here. I've had problems, some of you are aware, some of you are not, with the sewer project, with a patio refinish by Dolly Construction. They've poured it twice. The first time it was angled towards my home, couldn't open the door. I worked with Mr. Judd. They came and they knocked it out. They redid it the following year, and ever since I've been getting water seeping underneath the door. Mr. Weaver was out. They did not bring a level. I believe John was the engineer that was with him. And he was told that it sloped away. I have pictures that I can provide with you guys. I don't know if you want to see them right now or if that's something.
Sure. If you want to pass them up here, we'll take a look at them if that's okay with you.
Yeah, we can share here.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you.
So as you can see, just beginning there with the threshold, you can see that the threshold, typically when you walk into your door, any door, you usually step up an inch, half an inch, and that's where the caulk line is to stop water from going in. Dolly decided that they were going to concrete from the patio up to the door frame, and you can actually, if you look on the left side of that photo, you can see the water coming into the door jamb and it's soaking up through the door frame. You can also see how the water is coming in where my feet are. And it's not like it's running in, but it's seeping in right there. The second photo is just a closer picture. You can see it's cracking already, which is It is what it is. The third picture, you can see how it's exactly like level with the door jamb, where it should be below the door jamb, and the caulk would stop the water from coming in. The fourth picture is where the patio is level. So Mr. Weaver is correct. The patio is level if you go halfway out of the patio. To the right of that is where it starts going back into the back towards the house. You can see the next picture. I have the level, so you can see the circle, and it is going away from the house at the center of the patio. The next picture is my hand underneath the level there. Sorry, I tried to put them all in order. The next one is if I put the level at the threshold and towards the center of the patio, you can see my hand underneath the level. That is where the water is sitting and getting sucked into the threshold and is coming underneath the door frame. So if the patio was away from the house, I would not be able to stick my hand underneath the level there. It would be completely running to the left. The next one is actually if I step on the level up against the threshold, that is where the bubble would be. So it's actually sloped towards my house from the center of the patio, angled towards my house. So I also did like a right to know request and got the information on everything, because I'm kind of being made out to be like a complainer, but the only reason I'm complaining is because you can see the work that was done. I'm not holding you guys responsible at all. I'm actually here in hopes that you will help me get the contractor back out there to fix this situation. Just like if it was your house, you would not accept this work to be completed, and you would continue to call, reach out to Mr. Weaver. It is clearly not level. I got quotes to get it fixed. It's around $5,000 to get it dug out, redone. I don't think that's fair for me to have to eat the cost of that. Mr. Weaver had me reach out to Dolly. He gave me all their information, and I talked to the president of Dolly. He said, you know, honestly, Nate, your address has been a real pain. You know, I mean, I can't help that it's a pain because that's the work that they do. So I'm just here in hopes for you guys to maybe liaison them to come back and fix that work. Because if it was your house, I would expect you would want the same thing done for you. And if I could help you, I would in any way as well. I have the correspondence between me and Mr. Weaver, me and the township every time. I have the right to know request if you want to read that. There's really nothing on there. They can't even tell me when they actually repoured the patio. So did they report the patio? I can assure you they did, because it was beat out, but it's not on there. There's complaints about me concerning about a fence. The only complaint that was about a fence, I own 2 properties. They're side by side. There was an above ground pool, so every time Dolly would come and work on that property, they would leave the fence down. Well, I believe that's an ordinance for you guys, that there has to be a fence where an above ground pool is. So I would call and say, hey, like the fence needs to go up. So it wasn't me complaining about one property. It was another property that's put onto the right to know request. And then I have the estimate of what it would cost for me to have it redone. So like I said, I don't expect you guys to have to fund this. I'm just hoping that since you guys awarded the contract to this company, and I'm sure more contracts, that you guys have a little bit more weight than I would with this company.
Okay.
And if you guys would like these, I can share this with you too.
Just out of curiosity,
Sure.
Not to get into the details of the patio, but
Sure.
did they excavate it out? I mean, did they do the excavation, lay the stone where?
Yes.
To make sure the water would flow away from the house, or
Did that? It was all done during the day.
Okay.
The first patio when I came home.
But they came in and dug. They came in and dug.
They came in and dug. Yes.
Okay. All
Yes,
right. Yeah,
they
just
did.
Curious.
Yes.
Okay.
Twice, because there's actually a patio and a wall that's attached to my house. So they were super upset that they had to redo it because it also was attached to the house.
Okay. I mean, obviously, there's nothing we can do about it right this very minute.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But I would think that, Mr. Weaver, do you think that we can talk to Dolly about this property again, or can you give me some update from you in regards to what communications our department might have had with Dolly about it?
Sure. As Mr. Sanko said, when we met, the standard from Solicitor Stein is that when there's property damage from a contractor, that we're to provide them with Dolly information, because under the contract, Dolly is to hold us harmless and defend us in any property damage. So Mr. Sanko has property damage. And unfortunately, as I explained to Mr. Sanko, we have to follow the letter of the law, which is the contract. And the contract says that they have to defend us.
Right.
So we can certainly talk about, reaching out to Dolly, asking them, if there's anything that can be done based on his evidence that he provided. And see what they say.
Would that be you, or would that be Steve Stein who would reach out?
Well, that would be me, because Steve tells us not to get in the middle of it. Is that true, Steve? I don't want to speak for you.
To some extent, yes.
Okay.
And I actually have in the right to know request from Eric, who works for the sewer authority, about the complaint about the water. I think his name was Steve Johnson. He's the manager of Dolly.
I think he's a partner as well, but
okay.
he is the supervisor.
He said he would come back out and see what they could do about it. Obviously, nothing was done about it. So.
And how long ago was that, Nate?
The that was probably, so this all started in 2022. So it was probably May of 22. Everything's detailed in here. But it's been going on, and I've been in pretty constant contact with Mr. Weaver, as I'm sure some of you are aware. I haven't left it go too long without, because I don't want the excuse that it's been X amount of time, you're out. So, I've been in constant contact. And I understand that you guys really can't get involved, but you got involved the first time that the workmanship was done incorrectly. You understand?
Right.
So that's kind of where, I proved with the photos that it is. I mean, you shouldn't be able to put your hand underneath a level if it's truly level. Just looking for some help. That's it. I don't hold you guys responsible. Everybody awards people contracts that somehow work gets done bad, but the company should be required to come and make it right, regardless how many times it takes them.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
For Mr. Weaver.
Yes, sir.
Bill, can you verify that what this gentleman is telling us is accurate? You've been there, and you know that this uneven, unlevel circumstance.
Well, I think John, who has taken a new position, can't be here this evening. I think when he took the level, he agreed with Mr. Sanko that when he took it, it was in the middle, and that he did not take it at the house. So it's possible, as he says, that it's not sloped correctly.
So
I'm not sure.
You're not disagreeing with this photo evidence or the...
No, not at all. But I'm not sure we agree on what's causing the water damage.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to some other engineers that, that may not even be related to the patio, according to some engineers that I spoke to. Because of his retaining wall, the water could just come and run underneath. Because what happens with these projects, we have a public meeting and we tell all the residents, when you take all the water out of the sewer system, the groundwater is going to get higher in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And there's a chance that you could get water damage in your property. And we recommend to people to get sump pumps or waterproof your foundation. So in any event,
is it the contractor's suggestion that this water at this gentleman's doorway is because of the high?
No, I don't think the contractor has looked at any of his evidence at all.
No.
Okay.
So they're not even debating anything. Whether we agree with Mr. Senko or not, really, it really becomes a legal issue because we don't have the ability to go fix this problem for him if we did agree. I mean, that again, I'm speaking for Mr. Stein, but we can discuss that later. We can try to get Dolly with our relationship to try to do something, but there could be limits to what the board could do legally by contract.
Yeah, I understand that, Bill.
Okay.
I guess what I'm saying is that if there's a chance that work that we paid for, we were responsible for, is somehow defective and ruining this guy's house,
Right.
that we have a moral obligation to help fix this. I don't want to talk about legal versus, right or wrong.
Right.
I'm not talking about right or legal. What I'm saying is that if unless we know for sure that the water table rise and that's what's causing the problem, or we know for sure that this workmanship is causing the problem, if the workmanship is the root cause of the problem, then we should, in my estimation, without getting on the wrong side of legal, without getting on the wrong side of the lawyer, we should absolutely call our contractor and ask him to make this right. I mean, one way or the other, the proof should be, was it caused by the workmanship or not? And, we should do the right thing.
Sorry to interrupt. The house is waterproofed as well. So there's a sub pump with a drain system around the house. So,
And that's always been the problem, as Nate knows, is it's not 100%. There's not a universal agreement as to what the cause is, and the photos speak pretty loudly. But we do have that instance where when you seal up in the neighborhood, when you seal up pipes, you replace pipes that had been letting groundwater in, and you you no longer, the water cannot go in there anymore, it has to go somewhere else. So we have had those instances, and residents have been affected, and but not.
I mean, yeah, I would understand that too, just not right at a doorway where it's sloped in.
Not a case, this is different in that regard. So we run into that, because we've spoken about this for a while now. We run into the diagnosis problem, and then there's what kind of a stick do we have?
Yeah.
We just awarded Dolly a pretty big contract to do more work, and they're always far and away the winning bidder.
Sure.
Their numbers are just what they are. But so our sticks are few, but we should do.
Nate, you had
everything
no
we can.
issues prior.
I had absolutely no issues prior.
Right, okay.
I own 2 properties in Lingostown, like I said, side by side. Taxes are paid. You guys have never heard of me prior to this issue. So it's not like I want to be here or I want to be in constant contact with Bill, nor does he want to be in constant contact with me.
So I have a question.
No issues.
The first one that they replaced, was the water coming in as fast as what the second one that they replaced?
So the first one that they replaced, it didn't even come to that, because as soon as it dried, I went and opened the back door, and the back door would only open about 4 inches.
Okay.
And Mr. Judd, you remember me maybe you remember me talking to you about this. I said to Mr. Judd, I was like, hey, like the door won't open. I dealt with the township. And the John from Dolly came out and literally, not lying at all, took a razor blade and cut the bottom of my storm door. And he was like, well, it opens now, doesn't it? So the door actually opened on the patio, and when it closed, there was about 1.5 inch gap because he cut the bottom of the door off. Not lying. You can talk to Eric from the sewer authority. I think he's well aware of that. You may be aware of that, I'm not sure. But that's how it all started, and then it was just downhill from there dealing with Dolly. I don't think a razor blade is a fix for a door not opening correct on a patio, but that was the manager. Did you say, Bill? Manager? He's the manager? Superintendent. That is what he did to try to mend the situation. So I don't know. I'm sure water would have 100% ran towards it, but Mr. Judd intervened and got it out right away. They dug it up, and I waited all winter to have it repoured in the spring of 2022.
Yeah, I think if we could contact Dooley and talk to them and see what we can have done. I mean, we've been using them for quite a few years, and like we said, just awarded them another contract, you know, to be good stewards.
I've made a note to
Unless
contact
Dolly can
the owners.
prove that it's the higher water table, then I don't think we contact them, I think we insist,
Yeah.
my opinion.
Let's do this. Bill, why don't you contact Dolly to start with about the issue and see if we can get them to come back out, and then let's figure out how we can rectify the problem here.
Will do.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Nate.
I appreciate your
Appreciate
time.
it,
Thank you.
Oh, would you guys like the copies of this, or you're good?
I think we're good.
All right.
Thank you. All right, any other further public comment? All right, hearing no further public comment, is there any comments from board members? I just want to make the comment of, again, thank you for the opportunity to serve as chair of this board. It's been I've been on this board for, 22 years. So I appreciate it. I think I have a decent amount of knowledge of some history of what's going on here, but I appreciate everybody's confidence in giving me another shot at another year of being chair. So, approval of the minutes from November 28th of 2023. Is there, everybody had a chance to review those minutes? Is there any comments, any changes? Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll hear a motion to approve the minutes from November 28th,
So moved.
2023. Mr. Judd, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zumas. Any further discussion? I think we do this by voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right, let's go on to the sanitary sewer fund. We'll start with new business here. Some exciting news here on the bond issue for 2024. So I'm going to turn it over to Zach.
Okay, great, thank you. Bill, is there anything you want to say to kick it off, or do you want me to jump in?
Just that Zach had a phone call with Sam and I and gave us great news that they did a bang-up job on the negotiation. He's here to tell us the results.
So also with me, Carly Kiesling. She was happier than anybody about these results because she's a resident and this is her bill. The lowered, so yeah, it all worked out well. So we'll quick walk through this handout. You know, this is a document. It looks similar to what you might have seen leading up to this over the past 18 months. When you look on the front, it says bond sale documents. So this is kind of the final version of how all this looks. Oh, there we go. And if you flip to page 2, you know, one of the main reasons that we got better results than what the board would have saw, I think back in late November, early December, I think was the last time we saw you. When you look at the interest rate chart down at the bottom of page 2, you know, this is not your specific interest rate. This is just a benchmark. It's meant to show you how the general municipal market was moving. But when you go back to the peak, which was kind of at the end of October, I mean, you can see the municipal market interest rates came down, you know, well over 1%, right? So the timing of all this worked out very well. That helped save a significant amount of interest and debt service cost to the project, all right? The part that Bill was referring to is, and we'll talk about this in a second, but when we actually negotiate the interest rates on the specific day where we lock them in, that specific day, we were able to lower interest rates, you know, across the curve, another kind of anywhere from 2 basis points, so 0.02%, up to, I think, 15 basis points, or, you know, 15th 100%, okay? And that added an additional savings of about $330,000 just on that final day of pricing. The market was great. Your underwriters did a good job. There was so many buyers out there trying to buy these bonds that we had way more orders than we could sell. Meaning that, you know, we're selling $14 million of bonds, but we had $100 million worth of people saying, I want lower Paxton bonds. And what that allows us to do then is it allows us to adjust the interest rates lower to kind of chase some of those investors away, because they say, okay, well, now I don't want them anymore, and to kind of get that perfect interest rate, right? And you do that on every single maturity. So all in all, between interest rates coming down and a great day in the market, you know, debt service on this project was about $4 million lower than what you saw last year, okay? Now, a portion of that, about $1.5 million of that, was we borrowed $1.5 million less, just based on how the project came in, the bids came in based on some projections on interest rates going forward on your earnings. But so all in all, you saved, well over $2 million in interest costs through this project. So it was a great result all through it. So that's the high level summary. We'll quick walk through it, the pages, but any questions, just high level?
No, that's great. That's one of my question was going to be, what was what was the term of savings that we saw? And you're saying is about $2.5 million. So that's great.
No, it was very good. All right, so starting on page 3, this is your Moody's report. Okay, you have a great credit rating. It's the credit rating of the township, right? We borrow as the township. It's a AA2 rating, which is 2 notches below AAA. So, it's a very high rating for a township. I won't read through it. If you can't sleep tonight, you can go through this. But it just talks about all the positives and negatives of the township. And it's what helps allow you to get such good interest rates when you do go price bonds, okay? So that's kind of the first couple pages there. If you flip all the way to page numbered 11, this is a summary page. It's got some colors on it. The numbers are very small. I apologize. But what this is this is the long-term view, which goes out to 2036, right? So it's your whole plan. And this changes every couple months. We change this. Sam and Bill ask us to update some things. So this is not meant to be stagnant or final, but it's meant to be a guide that we walk through, as you do your capital projects. And when you look in the columns 1 and 9 in the blue, that was what we just did. So those are the actual debt service numbers in column 9. Okay, so you can see you pay about $400,000 in the 2024 year. And then you pay about $737,000 in debt service moving forward, okay? Again, that's about $150,000 lower than what we projected, on an annual basis. So, right there, that's pure savings to the ratepayers just by lowering those numbers, as you go down column 9. And then when you look across this page, just so you know how to read this, columns 10, 11, 12, and 13, those are future borrowings, again, that go, about every 3 years all the way out to 2036. Those are going to change. But then what this gets you to is in column 15, that shows you your new total sewer fund debt service at the end of this project cycle, right? Now again, those are not, those numbers will change around based on how much we borrow and what the rates are. But that's kind of how we plan and how you plan what your rate structure is going to look like as we kind of go through this piece by piece and fund these different sets of projects. And then column 16 shows you what approximately the budgetary impact is. So the difference between where you are now in your debt service versus where you're going to be in the future. And the way we have it is we have it staggered so that every other year or every year for 2 years there's an impact, and then we try to take a break and so on. So that's when you look down column 16, that's what that's showing you.
Yeah, and for the board, historically, the way we've tried to do things is we've always wanted to focus on level debt service. So we want to manage our projects out over time with the bond offerings that we're going to do. So we kept our debt service, the cash flow going out to pay debt and interest, pretty level and even throughout time. So as you can see there in column 15, you can see our debt services, up through 2039, it's pretty much around, anywhere between 11 and 12 million. So it's kind of what we want to try to do.
Yeah, where you see the step ups, that's because that's when a new bond issue is being phased in to fund the next set of projects. So that's this page. So you're going to see this page, for as long as you're going to be on the board as we continue to kind of chip away at your capital projects over the next, 10 years. All right. Page 12, real quick. We'll just show you. When you look here, this is a page you don't care about. This is what Sam and Bill care about when they're paying the debt service bills. But what I wanted to point out is in column 3 and 4, those are the individual interest rates of each maturity. So when I was talking about how we negotiate the interest rates, a bond issue is different than a mortgage. Mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, you get an interest rate of 6.5%, right? When you sell bonds, they're all fixed interest rates, but each maturity has its own coupon and yield. Okay, so the investor who buys the 2026 maturity, you'll notice the coupon and yield's 3%, right? There's only a year or two's worth of risk for that investor that the authority is not going to pay back its debt service. The investor that buys the 2049 maturity, that has a 5% at a 391. So there's more risk that over 25 years, all of a sudden they can't pay that investor back, so they demand a higher yield. So when you work your way through each individual maturity, That's what we're talking about when we negotiate the interest rates with your underwriter, okay? Because those investors are coming in and buying these bonds, but each maturity is different based on, you know, what the interest rate curve is and what the market is. So that's when we negotiated the rates the day of the sale. Those are the rates I'm talking about. We got to bring down even further just in that one day to save you that additional $330,000. Page 13, if somebody asks you what the all-in rate of this bond issue is, if you look smack in the middle of page 13, it says the yield of the issue. It's a 377. So you got 25-year money at a rate of a 377. So while you hear about how high interest rates are in the market and mortgage rates and car loans, I mean, that's all real, right? That impacts us all. But when you're borrowing in the municipal world, I mean, interest rates are still relatively low, and that rate of a 377 would be your all-in rate on this borrowing. So great rate, it was great results. Real quickly, page 14, again, sorry, this is just how these pages look. Lots of small numbers. This is the draw schedule. Okay, so columns 4 through 11 are basically all the different projects that we're funding, and it's an estimate of how the money is going to be spent. Okay, and then in columns 13, 14, and 15, that's what we call your sources. So you borrowed $15.9 million. You have some CFA money coming in the future. And then there's going to be interest earnings in column 15 on the borrowed money, because you can invest that while it sits and waits to be spent. So what we do is we take into account all these different things in order to decide how much money you need to borrow to fund these projects based on, you know, when we price these bonds. So that's what this page is showing you. Again, this page will always kind of be in here as you move forward for the various projects. And then finally on page 15 and 16, a little bit bigger numbers. This is your debt summary. So this is something that Carly and I look at and Bill and Sam look at. Now page 15 is the township specific debt, right? So this is all the debt of the township. So that includes stormwater debt, general fund debt, sewer debt, you know, whatever the debt is of the township. And when you look in column 12, you know, that would be the number that appears in the township's budget, you know, as when you look at things as a whole, right? The number that this group really cares about is page 16, because only some of that debt on the previous page is for the sanitary sewer system, right? So when you look at page 16, it takes those same borrowings, the same bond issues, but it breaks it out into specifically what's, you know, being funded by sewer rates, and that's what's in column 11. And Mr. Blaine, when he was talking about how we like to keep the debt service fairly level, if you look at column 11, you know, that's what he's referring to. You know, you're at about $10.2 million a year if you do nothing else as far as borrowings go. That would be funded in your budget based on where rates are now, and you wouldn't have to change rates to fund debt service. Now, you might have to change rates to do other things, but as far as your debt service goes, that's flat, right? And then it starts to trail off at the end. And then so each time when you go back to that colored summary page, each time you borrow again, you know, we try to keep the debt level after that, level or declining after that, so that there's no future spikes, you know, in debt service. But knowing each time you borrow, you have to phase in the new debt, right? But anyway, so this is kind of the debt Bible, so to speak, for the sewer fund on page 16. And then 17 is just a summary page. That's really for us. It just talks about, you know, what happened, and that's it. So we were very happy with the results. It was good timing. I can't say we can take credit for all the timing of this. Maybe we'll give Bill the credit. But it worked out well, and hopefully you're happy with the results.
Any comments?
Thank you.
Yeah, this is this outcome. When Bill and I were talking about it, the outcome is, you know, it was much better than we were anticipating it was going to be. So thank you for your time, and thank you for all the work that you did on that.
Yeah, you bet. And thank Carly, because she was very invested in keeping this
Carly. So,
right. Just one staff comment.
Sure.
Giving credit to PFM. You know, they just came on board and really got on the ground running. Zach and his team have done a great job of showing us how to wrap this debt, and that is very important to the board because it will keep level debt and help us keep sewer rates level for quite some time. We're taking advantage of that system that Zach presented to the board back in May, and we're going to continue doing that in the long term to help sustain level debt, and down the road, that's going to be a huge advantage for us in terms of sewer rates. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Zach, what does PFM stand for?
Public Financial Management.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Zach. Thank you.
All
Carly,
right. Thanks,
thank you.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along. Resolution 240101 to 240122, authorizing condemnation of easements for the PC 2E and F sanitary sewer trunk line replacement project. Mr. Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. You've seen these many times. This was actually in Zach's presentation as a project that's in your drawdown. As you may recall, we had an overflow that was identified recently by a resident that the authority was unaware of. After staff and GHD investigated, it was determined that based on the age of the interceptor that this project had to be taken on pretty quickly to eliminate the overflow. GHD's about 60 to 75%, Melissa. Nope, keep going, 90% done with the design. The next phase is to go to bidding. In order to bid, we have to acquire the easements. There's 22 here that you have on your list. And I also have a map in there just to show some of the board members that haven't maybe not seen this area. It's just north of the Lingelstown Road.
I'd like to pull it up, but I keep getting that we are.
Me too.
Yeah,
We are
sorry. There's no
sorry.
web page to match the entry.
Oh.
You have to go out and come back in again.
Dang it.
Do you know what's causing that, Shelley?
For years. For years.
In any event, it's just north of Lingelstown Road, right behind Kakovics in the church there. So this project, we hope to get out to bid. That works. We get out to bid in May or June, get the project started at the end of August. We have the long-eared bats that we can't start construction until after August 15th because of the long-eared bats. Again, the resolutions are standard. The board has seen these many times. We do hope to acquire these without condemnation. We're actually doing a PowerPoint presentation to post on YouTube on our webpage, and then we'll send those letters out to the 22. But because the next meeting is not to the end of May, and we could potentially start the bidding process, we just want to be safe and get these resolutions approved. We do hope to acquire all these without condemnation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any further questions on the resolution for the condemnations? It's pretty standard stuff, so nothing new there. Is there a motion to approve resolution 240101 through 240122?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Lindsay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Navarro. I think he snuck it in there very much the last second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. So I think we got that one covered. Let's go on to township reports on the sanitary sewer. Let's turn over to our sanitary sewer. We start with you there, Bill? Want to go with you?
Tim agreed to be the engineer and public works director. Right,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as we discussed previously, Mr. Shear took an offer he couldn't refuse. He has resigned, but he was very happy to provide his last report. It's in your packet. I'll be brief, as the board has seen these reports many times. The update is simply that Dolly is proceeding in BC7. John's report has him about 70% done, but Eric Morgan told me today with the next pay app, they're close to 90% done with the sewer and about 60 with the storm sewer. This project will proceed through the summer for the paving and yard restoration, and they'll be finishing this up in sometime between July, August, September, and then moving into the Claremont project. That concludes the engineer's report. Moving on to the next item, just quickly, Tim has identified many areas for paving, and as part of that, we TV the sewer lines. And unfortunately, Tim is paving in areas where the sewers are really old, and Jim has found a lot of defects. We try to do whatever we can internally so we save contractor costs. So 90% of these repairs will be done by our crew. We have actually Rogel's out working today and tomorrow on one of the areas that was too deep for us to dig. So those repairs are in process. We did talk about Claremont. The bids came in, as the board is aware, very favorable. The engineer's estimate was around $15 million. The bid was 11.47777, something like that. So again, Dolly, no one understands how they do it, but they came in $3.5 million under the engineer's estimate. We're very pleased with that. And the trunk line we just talked about, the Sweat Air dryer, we have not had an update for them yet. They have not started the project. GHD has been meeting with their engineer to go over some of our concerns on the dryer installation, and we'll provide updates as we get information from Sweat Air. We did receive a notice from CRW that they have increased their rates for 2024, and we are still negotiating the rates and the IMA with CRW, and our rate consultant and engineer and our council will provide updates as we get closer. The quarterly financial report, Sam is sick and couldn't be here this evening, but his report again is favorable. The revenues are.
I didn't see anything in that financial report that was unusual or alarming.
Yeah, well, we had end-of-year numbers in there, and again, we did very well on the sewer side for revenues, and expenses remain consistent. So you'll be seeing that reflected in the budget for 2025 when we prepare that in August. That concludes my township reports.
I assume everybody had a chance to look at the reports that were in the package. Any further discussion? Any other further questions for Bill? Tim? Jim? Anything? No? Yes? All right, hearing none, I think we can move right on to the engineer's report. GHD, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good.
You feeling good? Okay. You excited about giving your report?
Always.
There we go.
I'm always excited to give my report, and I appreciate the opportunity to continue to do so.
All right.
So Chapter 94 reports, Mitch is working on those. He's pretty close to being done. We just need to confirm a couple numbers with Bill and get an internal QA/QC on that, and we will get those over to CRW and Swatera long before the March 31st deadline. For GHD reports, we're working with Bill to get the total project cost so that he could get that information over to the board for the to the bond council for their work that they've already talked about tonight. Scott's working with Aero Engineers to try and get some sort of resolution with them for the cost that you guys have to give up front for the dryer. The cost went up, as you guys know, from the original estimate, and there's some pretty big contingencies and things in there. And Scott's trying to work with them to get those lowered a little bit, since that project's kind of essentially a design build, since they've gone through co-stars and the contractors for that. So we're working on that at the moment, and I don't have any further updates on that. CRW agreement, as Bill said, Alton and the other engineers are working with CRW to try and get some of these projects cost handled, just from flow standpoints and usage of each of the systems. So that's an ongoing process. Wet weather summary. We had a doozy of a storm in the beginning of January here. So there were 3 overflows in Beaver Creek, and there was 1 basement backup in Spring Creek. We are looking at some modeling and things to see if that backup was caused by the storm event or if it was caused by grease and some other issues that they found the staff went out and was looking at the whole system in that area, and there were some blockages of grease and things there. So we're looking into that to see if it was due to those blockages or if it was a capacity issue, but that's ongoing to see if we need to do anything for that homeowner.
I was going to say, Melissa, if it was a backup with us, then do we take care of that?
Yeah, if it turns out to be a backup to capacity issues, that house sits really low in comparison to the other homes in the area, and we would probably suggest putting a grinder pump in that location. But we haven't done the modeling yet to know if that's the case or
just
not.
to answer Mrs. Lindsay's question, unfortunately, we did not take care of it. He sustained damages. He took care of it himself.
Oh.
When there's no prior notice, there's nothing we can do.
Okay.
So there is going to be an analysis by GHD to see if this is going to be a wet weather program down the line. That's undetermined right now until they can run the model.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought you meant take care of it moving forward. Bill is correct.
Oh, okay.
So this is we'll be talking about this after I retire. You'll be talking about it, but at the end of the road, that the data is this data that Melissa's talking about with this storm is one of the worst storms we've ever had in terms of groundwater elevation, rain event, and the impact to the sewer system. So that's just a fact. I mean, the GHD's been keeping data for decades. So this event.
Was it that Sunday when it rained and rained and
then
rained?
Snow melt. So that really is the issue. It was a really bad event. But again, though, to protect this homeowner, if they determine that without this blockage and the wet weather would have caused it, then in the past the authority has stepped up and done something about that, putting in a grinder pump, a gate valve, something, because history will tell us that with climate change, whether you believe it or not, this event will happen again. So.
Okay. Yeah, Bill is correct. Mitch had looked at this event in comparison to other storm events, and it's right up there with Lee. It wasn't as much rain as that, but we had so much snow and so much snow melt that everything was just saturated. So the event is technically on par with a lot of events that got excused, but since it wasn't a rain and flood event, DEP didn't excuse it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, BC2, speaking of DEP, we signed a new reviewer who works with the PennVest system to just go over the loan. So I have a final inspection scheduled for March 21st. So after that inspection is done, the final retainage should be released. BC7, Bill's already talked about. The PC2E trunk line project, Bill kind of discussed that one too. We got the permits, the applications in today for that project, and we have the 90% drawings for the sewer end pretty much done. We'll be getting those to Bill by the end of next week at the latest. And we've got a little bit of stormwater to look at after we get some test pitting done. Emergency contract. This is a little outdated. The work that they are doing on Calum? I'm mispronouncing the road name. But the item that Bill was just talking about that needed to be repaired in the area prior to the paving, that was issued under that contract. And we're talking to Bill about an external maintenance repairs contract to handle some of the other ones that have come up through the televising.
Yes, just one comment on that, board members. We're joking around with Zach about changing that drawdown. It'll change. We'll be presenting something in May of a significant amount of repairs that are needed in the system that have been identified. Not outrageous numbers. GHD has to put a number to it. We'll get that to you in May, but these are repairs that have been identified over the last year or two that are significant. Rank as high as you can go in the NASCO rating, which is a 5. They have to verify all of our staff results, but it's needed. So we'll be doing that here shortly.
Okay.
And then PennDOT, we got the HOP to raise the manholes on Locust. And then I just have a list of the ongoing developments in the township. So.
Well, it says located within the Locust Lane before the PennDOT repaving. So do we know approximately when Locust Lane is going to be repaved?
Last time I heard, I think it's going to be like midsummer.
I think Tim sent an email, Tim, didn't you?
Yeah, we're still trying to get an update on that. The storm sewer system on Locust Lane has to be replaced before they're going to pave. So it's likely that, you know, it could be the end of this year or even next year until it is actually final paved. But we don't have that firm date yet. We don't have that schedule.
Is that all of Locust Lane, the storm? Because I know they did stuff down at Willow and Locust Lane.
That would just be, do you remember, Bill? I think it's just.
I think it's all the way, Jim, isn't it? It's all the way from the bridge up towards the hospital road there. What's that road?
Arlington.
Arlington. I think it goes Arlington all the way up to the garage, doesn't it?
I believe down to Fairmont Drive.
Fairmont Drive.
Oh, clear
okay.
down to Fairmont.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's pretty much
Significant, yeah.
almost the whole boundary of Lower Paxton, Locust Lane.
Is that a PennDOT-owned storm?
Yeah.
It's running parallel to the
Yeah,
the
for
road?
the most part.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, depends on who you ask who owns it, but yes, we.
Typically, I've heard they only own crossings, not parallel.
They've agreed to replace it.
Yeah,
It's
they own
their
it.
road.
Okay.
Shame they couldn't do it when they were doing the water. You know, now they have to go and dig up again. Don't go that way.
Yep.
Well, Locust Lane's not exactly great either in Susquehanna Township now, with all the, looks like they did a
They're
bunch of
digging,
sanitary
sewer
work
too.
there.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
that was
stormwater.
That was a
Yeah.
mini basin project
Yeah.
in
That's
That's
Susquehanna.
pretty rough up
Yeah.
there.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Any other questions for the sanitary sewer engineer report? All right. Hearing none, let's move on to the stormwater fund. First item of business is action on the consulting engineers agreement with Ratu for Colonial Park Stormwater Improvement Project. Mr. Weaver and Mr. Holt.
Yes, board members, just make a brief comment, and then I'll let Tim provide any comments. The RFP for engineering services for the Colonial Park Stormwater Improvement Project was advertised on November 22nd, and we accepted proposals till December 18th. We received 11. We interviewed 6 people. The engineering committee, which consisted of Tim and I and John and Randy, evaluated all of the proposals, and based on the interviews, we selected Ritu as, and the engineering committee's opinion, as providing the highest level of service in the most cost efficient manner. Ritu has provided their retainer agreement, and it's in your packet, and I'll turn it over to Tim for any other comments that he may have.
No, you covered it well, Bill. I think the only other thing to add here is just that this is just one specific assignment that we broke off, one area where we know we have a project coming up and need to have a design engineer on providing us with this service. So this is not a general consulting or a township engineering issue. It's more one assignment that we identified, and I think Ritu, Mike Nouse is here from Ritu if there are any questions for them.
Any comments at this point in time by any board members? I think my comment would be is that I feel that I would like to get a little bit more detail and understanding in regards to this Colonial Park Stormwater Improvement Project in general before we appoint a new engineer for that project. So it would be my it would be what I would like to do, and this, again, is just what I would like to do, it's up to the board. But I would actually like to table this action to just to get some further clarification on a few matters within the contract, also in regards to the proposal itself, before we make a final decision.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we table this.
Motion on the floor by Mr. McCormick to table. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Lindsay. Is there any further discussion? Okay. I think we can do this by voice vote. Action to table the approval of this contract and for the time being. Is there all those in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, so we'll table this.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just
Do a few review
yeah.
things on this before we go to any type of final approval on it.
Yeah, just procedurally from staff, we understand the need to table. We haven't really done a presentation, Tim and I, to the board on the significance of this project area, the need for it. It is one of the older areas in the township. Tim has two major complaints. One is kicked up to the legislature folks. So there is a need, but we haven't done a formal presentation. I know.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get to. Is
so
I think that
we understand
we moved pretty quickly towards the doing the proposal, getting doing the work that you guys did, which
Yeah.
I'm not. I personally am not saying that I have a problem with any of the work that staff has done or you have done. I just feel that from a board perspective, I need to get a little bit more understanding about what we're trying to do there one more time before we final approve. It just seems like it moved a little quicker than I think anybody anticipated it was going to move. So,
understood. We will work with the board on having some further engineering committee review and discussion on the project and the selection.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay. Township reports, stormwater. Back to you, Bill and Tim. And Jim. Jim wants to jump in there. Jim, you've been pretty quiet today.
I think he likes it that way. Board members, I have just several really quick reports. Since we have been here for a while, keep it brief as normal. The joint PRP, again, we've been telling the board we have a 5-year permit that has been very successful. Nothing's changed there. There is a project that is in Lower Paxton as part of the PennDOT RES project that we are partnering with. We are partners with CRW and Susquehanna, and our partnership partnered with PennDOT. And RES won the contract. They're on the tail end of the contract. McIntosh is the highest sedimentation removal expectation in the Paxton Creek watershed remaining. RES selected this as the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak. We have some documents that we'll be reviewing with you in May to show you more extensive details of this project. HRG has met with staff. They provided some technical comments to this project, and we will be meeting with RES to have them follow up on HRG's comments. Moving on, the township crew continues to be very efficient in doing storm sewer replacements. They've been delayed in some areas in BC7 because of utility relocations. They'll be moving back in there shortly. And they're, again, with Tim's paving projects, they've been working in that area as well. So they have just finished up over in the Francis Drive area doing some storm sewer repairs and replacements over there in preparation for Tim's paving project. And we have other projects that we are going to be discussing with the board. The idea with the crew that Tim and I are talking about is what we just talked about with the Colonial Park one is we need to get more work built up for the crew so they have somewhere to go when they're delayed with other utilities, and just have projects teed up. So we only have one crew, but we know there's tons of work to do in the next 10 or 20 years. So if we get these designs on a shelf, you can pull them off the shelf and say, hey, crew, go here. Right now, excuse me, we're in the infancy of this program. Tim and the stormwater staff are still selecting projects. So down the road, you're going to see us come to you for these design projects, getting them designed, getting work for the crew, and then looking at timing. Is it best to bid it, or is it best for our crew? Is that, Tim, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that you covered it, Bill. It's basically trying to work together, as we get new staff on and come up with a better planning process, so that some things that we learned early on, we don't run into the same issues. We can have a better pool of projects, so that when the issues come up, we can jump to something else and have more involvement, between the sewer department and public works, trying to work together.
I wanted to provide pictures, but we can still get those too. But one of the first projects that Tim and I worked on together was M Street. Our guys, we want to keep them digging, and then the restoration be done by others. So Tim's staff has stepped up, and they are doing in perpetuity until we change it. Is they'll do all the restoration. So our guys will do the digging. Public works guys will come behind, do all the restoration, paving, curbing, grass, whatever is needed. So we're sort of working as a team, which is good. And one last thing is, speaking of all this new stormwater stuff, we'll be talking to you soon about dedicating storm sewers. The new ordinance has to be in place in September. So at that time, we have to add these storm sewer dedications. I'm getting my hats mixed up, sewer storm. So we've never done anything since the authority took over the stormwater system in 2019. We've never dedicated any storm sewer. So it's just paperwork, but we'd like to ratify that and then put in place procedures that you have, like Melissa does on a regular basis. As you know, she presents dedication of developer installed sewer systems. But this whole authority fees and storm sewer ownership, this is all new to all authorities. We're just getting the procedures in place. We'll be working with Jason on that here shortly. That concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Any questions for Mr. Weaver? All right. Hearing none, let's move on to, because I don't think there's anything, we talked about McIntosh, we talked about the dedication, stormwater, preliminary financial statements.
Again, Sam unfortunately is here, but same story. Stormwater revenues are up and expenses are steady, so it's been a good 2023.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in the financials either that was of any concern. So, okay, wow, we're moving right along. Engineers report.
Good evening, everybody. To echo Melissa's sentiment here, appreciate the ability to continue to give these to the group. I'll try to touch on some things that haven't already been discussed here tonight. In terms of the township's MS4 program, the MS4 annual report was accepted by DEP at the end of September 2023. We're well into this permit term and have already begun to perform a lot of the activities under the MCM in preparation for this year's annual report. Probably the most significant upcoming milestone for that is the Public Works MS4 training session that we're working on coordinating for March. Mr. Weaver already touched on a lot of the PennDOT partnership items. To give some updates on a few of our design projects that are in process. The 2023 to 25 non-consent decree area stormwater improvements. These would be some more of those areas that Mr. Weaver and Mr. Nolt were just alluding to, that the in-house crews could begin to work on as soon as they're complete. We did have a review meeting on the designs for those with township staff and authority staff last week. So those are progressing along. The Friendship Center YMCA Stormwater Basins project, which some of you are probably familiar with because of the grant funding that was allocated to that project. We just had our field view and project kickoff with staff earlier this month, and that one will be underway here as soon as we get survey information back, which is anticipated in March. The Old Locust Lane culvert replacement, we did receive the permit that we needed from DEP at the end of December for that project. At this point, there's some easement acquisition activities that are going on, being led by Mr. Nolt. There's already been a lot discussed here with PC3. I do have the agreements, the bonds, the insurance documents, the hard copies of those in hand here tonight to deliver to Mr. Weaver after the meeting. Let's see here. Stormwater fee credit applications. We did receive one of those for the Members First Credit Union on Lock Willow Drive. That has gone through almost 2 rounds of review at this point. We're still working with the applicant to make sure that we have all the information to make a good recommendation on the credit for that, that property. The Dauphin County REP program, which I think a lot of you have been either involved in some of the updates that have been going on with that through the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. The slate of services, essentially the tiers of service, have been approved by the advisory committee. The Dauphin County Planning Commission also recommended approval of those to go to the county commissioners for concurrence. All the municipalities within Dauphin County have until March 1st, so essentially the end of this week, to indicate their intentions on whether or not they want to continue with the program or opt out for the next 2 years.
Jason, excuse me, just
yes.
Tim is our representative on the WARP. Do you have a report, Tim?
No, not really prepared to provide one, but
well, the letter. I meant the letter.
The letter went in. I think March 1st was the deadline to commit, and the letter has been submitted. I had a couple reminders from Bill.
So we are officially WARP members.
We got a bit of good news in December. I think most of you are aware that 2 grant applications that were submitted to the CFA under the Small Water and Sewer Program and the H2O program were awarded funding. The Friendship YMCA water quality project I mentioned received $112,000 in support of that project, and then another $1.4 million was awarded to the PC3E project, which will be a contribution made towards the construction phase of that project. Mr. Weaver has been working with the Army Corps of Engineers with our support to get under contract with some storm sewer condition assessment work that'll be at a 50-50 cost sharing arrangement where the Corps will pitch in 50% and the authority will pitch in 50% to assess storm sewers throughout the township. I believe Mr. Weaver made a presentation about that during the November meeting, and is currently working on the next steps directly with the Corps and getting that underway.
Yeah, we actually have a kickoff meeting on Thursday with the Corps engineers.
Awesome. And then lastly here, we have been working with township and authority staff on making some updates to the stormwater ordinance required by the MS4 permit. We've submitted a draft of the updated ordinance to Mr. Allen to review, and are working with him to kind of get that in a state where we're ready to adopt it ahead of the next reporting period for MS4.
Okay.
So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Just one quick one for Stonebridge Apartments. We're going to work on maybe being able to show results, have a public document to kind of show improvements or something. I know that's I don't know how hard that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been working with Mr. Allen, Mr. Weaver, to kind of document the progress of that project with some drone aerial imagery and flights. We've done 4 to date. We're waiting probably for this upcoming growing season, the vegetation to come in and be fully established, and then we'll fly it again to show kind of the final post-project conditions.
So it'll be more or less the riparian buffers and stuff we put in, not so much you're going to see cleaner water or less sediment or something like that.
I don't know that you'll be able to see that with the photography and the videos, but that's ultimately the goal of the project. So
it is, but for this purpose, what you're demonstrating is the actual work that was done.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know if this question's for you, Jason or Bill. Are we close to our sediment percentage that we needed to take out?
Yeah,
it was 30. Wasn't it like 35% or something?
Yeah, I'll defer to Bill on that. But according to the report that we submitted with the MS4 annual report, as long as everything with this next PennDOT partnership project gets implemented the way that it's planned, you will have met your goal for 2025.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Actually, can answer both your questions at the same time too. It's related to Stonebridge and McIntosh. The engineers, which HRG is doing for us for 3 years, is 3 years, right? Is they have to model it to confirm these removals. It's not like sewer where you just get the sewer reporter. So the stormwater water quality model that they have to monitor for 3 years. So it does continue. We have to prove that we did the work by this next annual report, which we're going to do when McIntosh is done. We're actually looking at having credits over our limit. So then we're talking to DEP, we can carry those to the next round. So.
Okay.
So we demonstrate the work was done and models are used. Is there ever actually, and I know you guys are monitoring, I guess the actual, do we actually measure the amount of sediment, or it's all just modeling to say, well, you prevented?
That's a 2-week seminar on modeling.
Yeah, well, because when you talk about other things in water, you can measure and say, all right, there was this much lead in there, and now there's this much lead. Do we actually ever measure actual amount of sediment in order to reach the goal that we have to reach, or is it all based on do the projects and the model says that will prevent this amount of sediment? There's no one's actually going in there and.
There are some more prescriptive ways to evaluate that, and I think RES may choose, or they may choose not to do that on some of their projects. For Stonebridge, we essentially took credit for the calculated value.
Yeah.
So there was never an intent to go in and do any kind of sampling or further evaluation on that project.
And when we meet our township-wide goals, these are all, again, they're just based on models and the work we performed